a dream.
It's one small step for man.
I am the greatest.
You want something, go get it. Period.
What's up, my fellow dreamers, doers, achievers? It's been a long time coming, or it feels like that. And before we get to the bulk of this episode with Ryan Lange, where there's a lot of authenticity and vulnerability and openness and sharing of life lessons and experiences, a housekeeping note for the podcast itself is we rebranded it, as you saw, as Dream Big Daily, because a lot of the stuff we have now are media attachments to Dream Big & Co. Productions for Dream Big & Co. itself. So that's one thing to note if you're wondering what happened. But other than that, I really hope that you listen to the entirety of this episode, because Ryan talks about his journey from when he was younger and he had more characteristics of ego involved in his actions to then evolving from that through racing, building a business, relationships, into who he is now. And it's really amazing to see. And I know you guys will appreciate his openness and get a lot from it. So with that being said, enjoy this episode and let's cue the pre-intro as usual.
But no, man, judgment is probably the biggest cancer of today's society. And it just all stuck in my brain, and I was like, wow, I need to make a serious life change, because you could be this tough dude that runs super far and this guy that has a business, but what are you without people that love you? Be your most authentic self and only good things will happen. To judgment, people are only going to judge you when they are either jealous of what you're doing or they're upset with themselves that they are not attempting to do something that you're doing.
A lot of what the culture is now, there's a lot of judgment with whatever anyone does. I think just like the masculine energy of it. So I think that's the big vision, but it's going to take a while to get there. And like I said, I'm working in reverse. But now that I know how to build a brand and do designing and like tell stories well, I want to do that for other people. Yeah. Because I got the experience basically the past 2 years.
Dude, take that judgment out of it completely. Don't care what people are doing and judging you. When I first got this idea about an anti-theft hydration backpack, I went up to a kid at a ZED concert in October. I specifically remember asking, I was like, would you buy an anti-theft hydration backpack if I made one? And the kid's like, nah, like no. And I did not work on that idea for a whole year. And that might not be judgment, but to go back to judgment, people are only going to judge you when they are either jealous of what you're doing or they're upset with themselves that they are not attempting to do something that you're doing. Mm-hmm. So very recently, like I've been filming videos of me doing like very wacky stuff out in public, and you could feel judgment on you. I call it when people lay judgmental energy on you. Mm-hmm. And I've recently been trying to take that feeling and like, this might sound odd, but like consume it within my brain. So then you are like, you just ate that judgment. So you are now fully authentic.
Accept it,
and you don't give a shit. You do not care, because that is like I spoke about before, when you are fully authentic, other people will see that, and they will not even consciously, subconsciously, I don't want to say follow you, but like trust you in a way, I guess, because when someone's being very authentic, it's the opposite of fake, right? You're not going to trust someone if you're getting the antenna in your head, getting fake snaky vibes. Take the the exact inverse of that. When you see someone that is being super authentic, super themselves, you're going to want to follow them. Not follow, but like do what they're doing, because you're an example, of what the uncommon person is. You said judgment is very common. Like you get a lot of that.
Exactly.
Totally take that out, dude. I used to be an extremely judgmental person. I used to judge the hell out of people that dressed very out there, that did, let's not call them weird, but definitely different things.
Yeah.
I used to judge the shit out of those people. Like,
yeah, can you go down that rabbit hole of when, I guess, were you in high school, start with sports, and then go into what you used to think and look like, and then we'll go down a whole path of all of that in that transition.
Definitely. So high school, I was a football player, so automatic, boom, tough guy. That's how you gotta act all 24/7, right? Was very, plain in how I dressed, how I acted, very, typical high school football tough guy. So anyone that wasn't that, in my brain, I was like, they're not tough, they're weird, That was very, very high school of me, which I'm sure a lot of other people were like, which is, it's natural, it's average. Growing out of that eventually is what everyone, I think, needs to do, but not everyone does do.
Because they're either afraid or insecure to address it, or they're just like completely oblivious to it.
Yes, that is the biggest thing. I was one of those people that was oblivious. So I was around. I grew up. My mom wasn't around from when I was like 9 to 14. So I grew up around a lot of masculine energy, uncles, and a lot of egos, a lot of other football players. So it's constantly masculine. Anything was that was out of the ordinary was labeled as So
I feel like I grew up with mostly all guys. Just my mom was the female.
Okay. Yeah. And another thing that which we talk about later is I realized recently that the ages of 9 to 14 is when you're taught being empathetic, and I never had that time in my life where I was taught that. But to go back to the original, what we were talking about, so coming into college, I was still like that very judgmental person. But then I started to realize that being creative was like cool. It was fun. Like it felt good to be creative. And Ryan would never do art. Like it was ingrained in my brain that like I was not creative and artistic because that wasn't cool. You know what I mean? Like being the tough guy was cool. So then I got an idea, or I started going to music festivals and seeing a lot of people at festivals. People are their utmost selves. There is no judgmental energy. You hear it made fun of a lot. Plur. People make fun of it all the time. It's like the music festival thing: peace, love, unity, respect.
Okay.
It's a very big, all the, let's call them core values of music festivals, and people make fun of that. They judge that because they see people at festivals being their utmost self, authentic self, and they they judge it to like put them above those people, right? That is why
I'm better.
We judge.
I'm better than that.
Exactly, but in reality, they're not. That's why they're judging it, and they have to express that they're better in that. So. Yeah, it's a common thing that if you ever hear like rave EDM stuff and people like say plur, it's that people are making fun of the scene.
Got it.
So I started going to festivals. I started seeing this. I started really like being creative, being great, dressing in crazy stuff. And I started to slowly realize that, wow, I used to make fun of these people. And I then, now it's like I fully know why I made fun of those people. And I wish I was aware of
what was the click?
Doing.
Was it just over time?
It was over time, definitely. But once I designed my own product and I started meeting other people that designed stuff, and I started seeing them and how they acted and how, like, I would judge someone in front of someone else and they'd be like, dude, that's not cool. Like, why are you judging? And I was like, oh, shit.
Dude, that's a great point with building a habit. Is having the people around you to call you out. Yeah, that's a great point. That's why we'll get into it about going West Coast soon. But
but no, man, judgment is probably the biggest cancer of today's society. So that
is a great snippet.
You brought that up. I wanted to say, screw judgment, dude. Don't care about what people are saying behind your back. Of who's sending your content to someone else making fun of you. I'm sure I get that all the time. You'll never know. But I'm trying to take the mindset of, fuck yeah, send it to someone else. Make fun of me. That's who I am. That's who I am. That's who I'm going to be. That's who I'll continue to be. So go ahead, make fun of it.
Yeah. So we started off. We jumped right into it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give pre-context, pre-recording, but we have the rave runner scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
You evolving into another person, and you're wearing a shirt now that says "R.I.P. to the old me." I love it. So, can you talk about your other passions as well with running and how you got into that whole scene? Because I'm sure, there's so much to talk about there, and I love how it all comes together with you now having your business and this product with the Rave Runner and all of that.
Definitely. So I like to say that a lot of time conversation revolves to me, and I incorporate what I've done in my past life, but I'm definitely not here to talk about my experience or my accomplishments, because one, that's the gateway for my ego to come back and continue to start talking about itself. And my ego's name is Ron. We locked him up in a box a couple months ago.
I love it, bro.
So talking about yourself really enables the ego, and that's what I'll get into in a little bit. But I'm here to, and in any conversation I have with someone, give the lessons that I've learned from my experiences. So I started out, came to high school, came to college. I was done playing football, got pretty overweight. So started to run 1 or 2 miles here and there. Started to lose weight because it's a shock to your body when you first start getting into any sort of exercise. And I started really liking when people told me I was looking better. So you pair looking better, people telling you that with the amount of miles you've ran. So like my brain's like, I'm gonna run more miles. You know what I mean?
that's where Ron was thriving.
Ron was loving it, man. Ron was eating it up. Ron was gonna run himself into the goddamn ground if he needed to get more of that. But also on the flip side, on the Ryan side, I really liked the community I was getting into. Me and my dad bonded over what I was doing. We were going to crazy places to go on these runs. And I was feeling better, feeling like I had a little bit more of a passion, definitely. So that passion, I did a marathon. That was tough. Did a 50 miler. Got into a 100 miler, which was really, really hard. I had no idea what I was doing at that time of running. I had no idea.
You said at one point you were just eating peanut butter stick for 50 miles.
For 50 miles, all I ate was half a pack of peanut butter, which is not what you're supposed to do. We went to, after I finished that 50 miler, my dad and I went to the Outback, and I fell asleep in my steak because I was so drained.
In your steak?
Literally in my steak.
No way.
I remember because I drank an IPA as well. So like immediately, boom, just putting it out. And my dad was like about to take me to the hospital because I was not like waking up. I was like getting up and then break back down because I literally was so drained of energy, any sort of energy. Yeah. And nutrients, micronutrients as well. So brain just doesn't function. And when you get into those distances of running, you'd asked about hallucinating, which is an extremely common thing. Usually around the 36-hour mark, to a 30 to 36-hour mark of being awake. Someone explained it pretty well. It is your brain cannot process like imagery or what you're seeing fast enough. So you think your brain can't process out like, oh, that's not a cat, or oh, that's not people churning milk. Yeah, like that's why people.
I remember reading your one post about, and we'll get into the race in which this happened, but you started seeing like a tree as a cat, or like, and then a tree as a sniper.
And I was like trying to duck around, seeing if it was a real person.
What, and then you just passed out and you laid down and slept, or
when you get to that point, a lot of times you have a pacer, which is someone who runs with you to, make sure you're okay, keeping you on track. But we'd go like 3 or 7 minutes were like my sweet spots. Literally lay down and you are out right away. 3 minutes, you get up and you feel like you just drank a cup of coffee, and that's
insane.
Yeah, that'll last like 4 to 5 hours.
Wow.
So yeah, got into the whole running scene. Really liked that, and overall, in the end, it kind of it showed me that anyone is capable of doing like some crazy shit if you really put in the effort and if you really believe in yourself.
Yeah, can you talk about the lessons you learned when going from 230 pounds, no running, to then doing a Moab? You did 240, or even the 100 miler. Like, what did you learn in that process? Maybe a couple key things
Yeah.
that are ingrained in your head now?
Whenever you're starting something, it is going to be extremely hard for a relatively good amount of time. That's why you get a lot of people that will start working out, will start getting into reading books, will start getting into something that is, let's not call it easy, but something that builds character or physical, whatever. People quit because they're like, this is so hard. You hit a point where it becomes a lot easier. Number two, don't try to do so much at once. You get the New Year's Eve resolutioners that want to go to the gym 5 days a week.
Those both kind of link up.
Yeah. So like I did not jump right into running 240 miles within 2 months, right? I did do it kind of fast, but I still built marathon, 50, 100, 240. The third is you are so much more capable than what you like perceive or believe that you like are. And that's another thing. People put a lot of limits on themselves because the average person is not doing this. Why would I be able to do it if that person can't do it? That I through this am now able to totally take that out of my brain, and it has given me, I had these thoughts of branding my company with creating characters, and I'm like, I converse with a lot of people. People are like, nah, it doesn't really happen a lot, and I'm like, I did this. That doesn't really happen a lot, right?
Exactly.
So always having those three things in your back pocket, if I were to give you the three things, would be those for sure. And awesome. It's, I found mine through running. Someone else might find theirs doing something different. I'm not saying you need to go run a couple 100 miles to
I love how those are the universal principles. You can be playing a violin.
Yeah.
You can be running 240 miles.
Exactly. Yeah. That's just how I did it. I just did it in a weird way. People might do it playing a violin.
Yeah, exactly. And I resonate with that totally because I remember coming to Philadelphia 2017 and I started with a 5K. I remember just going for a jog because I was in Philly. I was infatuated by being in the city. And I saw a race going on. I just joined midway.
That's awesome.
And just finished the race. And I was like, all right. And then now I'm 2020. A couple of years later, I'm running an Ironman. And the cool thing is I'm going to be doing it with my dad. So
nice.
That's a big achievement.
Nice, dude. That's awesome. That's fun stuff.
You can attest to that. But I think that's golden. I think that's how most things should be. And if you're not doing that, reverse the thought right now. Mm-hmm. So can you talk about, because I know... what's it called when you don't finish a race?
DNF, did not finish.
DNF.
Yeah.
The one thing that stuck out to me with a lot of the stuff I checked out with you is what you learned when you had a DNF for your most recent race. Mm-hmm. And you can get into the details of that, but just explain what that taught you too, and then we can dive deeper.
Yeah. So my most recent race was the Bigfoot 200 out in the Cascade Mountains. And this was, I'm full at this point training for this race. Like my life is revolved around running 200 miles. So I was going balls to the wall. This is the hardest I've trained for a race. And I'm thinking, I literally said on a podcast a month before that my biggest goal is to never DNF. So there's the reason I DNF'd, because I said that. So I get to that race, and I definitely had a mentality of I'm good at this. I've done this before. I'm going to absolutely crush this race. Mm. So I go in, and I was booting on all cylinders. I was doing really well. I was in the top 10 for a while, flying high, feeling great, eating great. But I was not paying attention to the fundamentals. I was not paying attention to how much food I was eating. I was not paying attention to how much salt that I was intaking. So when you're doing these long races, you are sweating out a lot of nutrients. You need to replace those nutrients. I was training in humid New Jersey for months leading up to this race. So I was consuming a lot of salt on the runs here, training runs here. Go out there, 70 degrees, dry heat, you weren't sweating that much. And I changed my salt pills right before that race to be 3 times the strength. So I was taking pills 1/3 the strength, as I was thinking I was sweating the same amount in Jersey as I was out there. So long story short, my body retained all of the water that I was drinking. My whole body swelled, my feet swelled, and they ground up tendons in my feet to the point where I literally couldn't walk. But what that taught me is, even when you're good at something, you can't be thinking you're tough shit. And that's exactly the mentality I was in. You know,
For the ego side.
Yeah, dude, I did not do that. And you know, a little bit after this race is where I had my big realization of how big my ego has grown without me even being aware. But yeah, it did teach me a little bit, but it didn't fully teach me what my ego. There was definitely something else that taught me. You know, I thought I just ate too much salt. I just immediately dismissed that. But yeah, that's definitely what I learned through that race and through other recent experiences.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely massive. Because although the ego can't fully be vanished, it can be extremely reduced. It's always going to be there, but it's how you train your mindset to observe it and then get over it.
That's good.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the stuff with training too, it's a lot of it being in your own head. You know, and the same thing, we can transition this to business too. Like, you do spend a lot of time alone. And for even a particular skill, you don't have to just be entrepreneurial or business or a racer. You have to spend a lot of time alone honing in on that craft, right? And you have to really have a positive mindset and be in your own head in the best way possible. And that's a lot of stuff that I learned, and I'm sure that you can agree with that as well. Because, I mean, your races are much longer than ones I've done, and that's a whole lot of training.
Yeah, don't compare yourself. No. It's not good, dude.
No. But it's true, man. But what would you say for... Do you have any affirmations or repetitive things you do? Or, like, what... Was it just all these experiences accumulated to you getting over this hump of massive ego and stuff like that?
Yeah, so it was... I had a lot of people... So here's the problem. I had, between doing all this crazy running stuff, I started to get all this hype around me. People constantly asking me about me, and the conversation was always about me. So then I started a business. Then I have like my dad's friends asking me about me, like a whole different market. So whoever I'm talking to is just me. And I was not even aware of how every conversation was about me. On the surface, I was never super ego, but there was no deeper Ryan Lange. You know, you couldn't connect with Ryan Lange. So I didn't have these deeper friendships to check me. You know what I mean? I never grew those deep friendships where, you know, Anthony would see something in me and call me out. I didn't have people that were close enough to me. So it could just continue to snowball. And it all led to this point where this girl that I was super into totally just called me out all in one sentence. And for some reason in my brain, it like put everything together of all these other people that were dropping hints, which I'm not a good person at picking up hints. And it just all stuck in my brain. And I was like, wow, I need to make a serious life change, because you could be this tough dude that runs super far and this guy that has a business, but what are you without people that love you? You know
exactly.
What I mean?
That is huge, bro. That's huge. Actually, I hope that helps a lot of people, because at the end of the day, it is about relationships. And like what you said points to that. It's like, yeah, you can have all these accomplishments, but do the people around you love you? And most importantly, do you even love yourself? You know?
Yeah.
And I love the point also of, so the major click for you was, or the thing for you is having the right people around you.
Yeah.
Would you say like that's a main contributor? Yeah.
Definitely. And a lot of people will put themselves around people that I don't want to say aren't helping them grow, but it's let's call it an acquaintance. You have a lot of acquaintances, not a lot of friends.
Yeah, and
friends.
Yeah, and I think I mean, and you will outgrow people if they aren't comfortable with pushing you. Like, I know for a fact, like a couple of people in my life, they're afraid of facing the truth. So that's why I'm not talking to them as much. Not totally out of my life, but we're not as acquainted as you would say, you know, and I completely agree. You gotta, and part of that, what you said, is that transparency and like truth behind it, all coming from a good place. Yeah. You know, people exposing you for the right reasons. Yeah. Yeah. And you could tell someone that they're doing something wrong. But recently, what I've learned very recently is you cannot change someone.
So I had a lot of people trying, showing me the way, leading a horse to water, let's call it.
Exactly.
But it was up to me in the end to figure that out on my own and change it. And recently I've tried to change some people where it's none of my business to try to change people. You could show them, you could drop hints maybe, but it is not your problem to solve. It is all up to them. And like you just said, you kind of separate yourself a little bit. You stand off, let them go grow on their own, and if they do, you rekindle. And that something like that just happened to me. A friend of mine, that I knew 3 years ago and was friends with 3 years ago, we both weren't friends, and now we both realize that we've grown a little bit. And now we come back together and we're like, well, this is cool, like I did this and this. What did you do? Oh, cool.
One of the things I want to loop back to is a thing of visualization, because with this racing stuff and just trying to accomplish something massive, it always starts with a belief, right? And you always have to visualize yourself being at that end point, quote unquote, even though there's no real end point. Do you do meditation, or what is something you've cultivated, a practice to help that?
My biggest thing, I just recently got into meditation and have started to understand the serious benefits that it brings. And I was the person that would kind of try meditating and be like, this doesn't do anything. So I never came back to it. But my biggest thing was self-talk. I would look in the mirror and say, you are the fucking man. Brush yourself off. Keep on moving. Did that with running. I still do that with the business side of things. When I'm beat, it's 7 p.m. I just worked my face off, but I need to keep going because I have something due tomorrow. It really helps to it's kind of odd, but look at yourself and tell yourself that you are the fucking man and you could do it, because you're actually seeing someone else, even though it's you saying it to you, and it's not an ego thing. You keep that to yourself and you tell yourself you're the fucking man, but you don't need to let other people think that you're the fucking man, but that's my thing. I definitely encourage people to try it, because I've gotten into this, let's call it a vortex of going upstairs instead of going downstairs. It's I am the fucking man, and I'm going to go do this right now. I hype myself up, play some music, and then there you go. Yeah. So
I love it. And so that's like a go-to. You have that intact. How do you balance that with pacing yourself and getting the right amount of rest? Because I've been realizing glaringly lately that the places I want to go, I got to pace myself. And I need the proper sleep. If I want to wake up early, I got to get to bed early. It's not a sacrifice. It's like you're making these choices, because I don't think anything is a sacrifice, right? Everything's a choice you make. It's just an alternative. How do you, someone who does so much, is so in his head, that is really passionate, how do you balance that with sleep?
I'm going to be honest. I'm known for not being good at balancing stuff.
Okay.
So I'm going to say that I probably can't answer this question completely right. I know I'm aware of it, and how I don't balance, and how I'm very black or white. There's really not any in between with me. I would say use your weekends wisely, and also I've really, really cut down on drinking alcohol. I used to be 3-4 nighter a week. Now I'm 2, sometimes even 1 recently. That might sound like an old man, but it really takes a lot out of you. And I've also noticed that I always thought drinking was a very physical draining thing. It mentally drains my thoughts. So I will have an idea, and if I got pretty drunk in the past 48 hours, it would be no one would like that idea. It won't work. Now if I'm sober for 3 days, it's this would work in this way. You might have a problem here, but you can fix that with this.
You're sharper.
You're sharper. You're more optimistic. I've recently started
that's a great point.
And through writing stuff down, if I'm hungover on a Sunday, I've literally noticed patterns that I speak in a more depressive and negative state than what I do on a Thursday if I haven't drank since Sunday. It's very whack to see that pattern. Yeah. So I've recently...
You're doing your own experiments.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, that's what you got to do. You got to test
that's life.
Out. It's literally the definition of life.
I love it. Yeah, and then talking about journaling, you brought that up. That's a big practice for you now. Because that is linking it to the visualization part. That's a big part of it as well. Yeah. That's self-talk as well.
Yeah.
Just throwing it up on paper.
That's true. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
I used to do a year ago, if you told me to journal some thoughts, I would have laughed in your face and said that that's dumb. but it helps me figure out a lot of things. I also write down my angry thoughts and throw them out because that gets them out of your head completely. But yeah, no, I call it the web of thoughts. I'll like write down, for example, making the rave runners into characters. I told you I wrote down, I was in a tough time in my life.
Rave runners is a product for Gen Z, by the way. No, just like context. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. Rave runner is a hydration backpack. It's the flagship product for my company, GenZ. And it has a bunch of different benefits on features that I've combined throughout my experiences of motocross, snowboarding, music festivals, particular, running, and put a bunch of features into one pack. But to go back to that, I'm in the process of branding the company and actually starting a brand. Anthony started a brand, now he's building the product. I'm the inverse. I made a product, now I need to build a brand. So I wrote down like all these things I wanted to do in life. I wanted to grow as a person. I wanted to do my hobbies, which I love dancing and I love video editing. But I also wanted to work on my business. So writing down all of these thoughts, connecting them, and then kind of writing out different conclusions for myself, I was like, holy shit, I can make rave runners into characters that dance and they have sweet video edits and it benefits my company because it builds a brand. And I would not have do not think I would have thought of this idea if I didn't write out all these thoughts. And I do really hate that it is a toxic masculine thing to journal your thoughts, journal your thoughts. Because I just said that in an awful way. Sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Yeah, and I used to be like
people know the point because
and I am very gung ho about exposing that about myself because this might be kind of a wrong thing to say, but because I have done these big crazy runs and some view me as a tough guy, it can't be like making fun of Ryan because he also journals. I don't know. That's just it takes away the insecurity for me.
It's both. It's like radical. Both ends of the spectrum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Well,
I balance myself out there.
Yeah. No, that's what I was gonna bring up when you first said I don't think I'm that balanced because it's either you're in the middle or you're on both ends. Either way, you end up being balanced.
True.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's exactly what you are. And the one thing that just clicked for me is we talked about relationships. We talked about the right environment. A lot of things are like clicking. I'm gonna. This is really good stuff. I think.
You want to pause and write it down, please?
We can listen back. The people around you are like a journal in a way, because at the end of the day, it's just like you yourself. And I, you know what I mean? Like you do have, life is meant to be shared with others. Relationships are a thing, but at the end of the day, like it's very much a perception of yourself and everything's about perspective. So when you talk to people, that's just your perception and what you hear them say and how you perceive it is just all yourself. So in a way, like everything's sort of like a journaling inner self-talk. It's just about having the right practices and having the right people around you that help reinforce those good habits. Yeah. So I think that's a very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. You just kind of said it. Friends are when you give, you give, but friends also will give back to you. And like,
you're not counting it. It's just,
you're not counting it at all. Yeah. You're not, it's not like, oh, I bought you a present. You got to buy me a present. It's like helping each other. Yeah. And I found that, I was very open with a lot of people, and I was just like very giving, and I started to give to a lot of people that weren't, giving back. And I stress to like make people know that it's not I expect stuff in return, but like help each other grow. That's literally the definition.
And that's what you found now with going to Colorado.
The people
eventually.
I found in Denver, it's like you want to help these other people and they want to help you too, because you start to realize the power of a community and like how it not only benefits yourself in a way, but like the bigger picture is like people always talk about like, why did ISIS get so big? It's because people want to be a part of something bigger than themselves.
Yeah,
and like,
that's a good point.
You know what I mean? And might have been an awful example, but I just heard that a few times.
No, that's a good point.
But that is why like I found that crowd in Denver that I resonate with, and I
because you're graduating soon. You're going to move out there to fully establish your business. You have the community. Yeah, exactly. I love that. So talking about that coming up in months, what are the aspirations in the years to follow and being out there for yourself and Gen Z? Do you have like massive races planned, or
I don't have any races planned right now. I need to get out there, get my feet in the ground, get life settled before I start planning anything. I found that I overdo and overbook myself a lot, and I screw myself over. So there's no reason to do that while I'm making a major life change. But the biggest reason I'm moving out there is I want to, obviously, I want to make money in life, but I want to have like really awesome people around me. And every time I go out there, I meet a handful of new awesome people from, not even just going to Red Rocks for a concert, but going on a run and running into another running group of cool people. And it's a good area. It is a very up and coming area.
Definitely.
You could go out to a mountain 40 minutes out, and not to make fun of my hometown, but you can't do that in Jersey. You don't have Red Rocks in Jersey.
Come on, Jersey.
Yeah.
I'm from Jersey.
Yeah,
I
love Jersey. Jersey's home. But
I agree.
What I want to do in life, where I want to go, the community I want to be in, that's where it is.
Priorities have changed. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go.
It's interesting too that you've grown so much that's where you're gonna be now.
Yeah, it's weird. When I came to Drexel, I was like, I came to Drexel because I didn't want to go far from home. I was very in my own, laser focused. I'm going to be a Philly guy my whole life, I was not open to new stuff. And once I became open, I started to realize, whoa, there's some cool stuff out there and I fit in.
Yeah. I love that. So I think there's a lot of gold here. I know there's a lot of gold here. I appreciate you diving into everything and anything. You have a really fascinating journey to where you are at now, and there's so much to take away because of that. Is there any like major realizations you're coming to lately that you want to like pinpoint before we close everything out, or just something you want to say in general, or we can just cap it off and leave it on a high note?
Not really, man. We talked about pretty much all of it. I really hope what people take away from this is, let people lay that judgmental energy on whatever you're doing and eat it up and make them, let's not call it feel bad, but be like, wow, just continue. Really be your most authentic self and only good things will happen. That's what I'll leave it with.
Exactly. Just keep improving yourself and the rest will follow. Yeah. Just be you. I like that. Beautiful.
Awesome.
Let's go.
That's fun shit.